I just read an article from the Financial Times that states that there is a genocide going on in Gaza. I repeat, I read an article from a Western newspaper that was instrumental in generating the consent for the genocide in Gaza through articles in which they quoted sources from the IDF that helped generate consent for the targeting of civilian infrastructures in a time of war, by creating excuses in advance for the Israeli army to bombard civilian infrastructures, just published an article stating that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. They're not the only ones. Check the tone of the Guardian newspaper recently. This supposed bastion of left-leaning thought in the UK has been reported to have been clamping down, reporting that is pro-Palestinian. The same thing with the New York Times. The newspaper that gave us Screams Without Words, an article that will go down in history for the generation of consent to murder women and children in their thousands. Mind you, generation of consent is something that the New York Times is no stranger to. Because remember the article of the supposed weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that generated a conflict that potentially killed more than 1 million people? They did it as well. Last week they published this article quoting from the Lancet Journal of Medicine. The death toll of Palestinians had been undercounted, partly because of the conspiracy of silence of our liberal Western media that stood silent whilst children were crushed under buildings. All of us watched this glued to our screens in horror, screaming. And more, in more diverse newspapers, I see stories that focus on the plight not only of the Palestinians in Gaza, but also of the Palestinians in the West Bank. What changed? The level of destruction, the level of sadism, the level of lack of humanity has been consistent throughout. A ceasefire is only a ceasefire by name, and the West Bank is in flames at this moment because of Operation Iron Wall. What changed in the last month, specifically in the last couple of weeks, that allowed these newspapers to start exploring what the Palestinians have been telling us directly for a year? At the end of the day, I'll take it because I'm so happy that the plight of the Palestinians is finally being recognized. On a completely different topic, the question that leaves me awake at night is, what would have happened in liberal medial circles if the murder of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd had happened during a Democratic presidency? If there wasn't a villain that was the embodiment of a horrendously flawed system, rather than the polite version of it.